2024 or 2023, depending on how you look at it, Academy Award nominee Ryan Gosling stars in the Ides of March. Behold, or is it beware? Beware! Depending on how you feel about this film, either one of those could be true. Anyway, um, this film is available on Max, as I'm keeping up my promises by doing each one of the nominees with an audio described title. This is on Max right now with audio description from the Media Access Group, narrated by the late Miles Neff. Who's the fantastic narrator. Yes. It was delightful to hear his voice on this. Just as soon as I turned, I was like, oh, it's the Star Wars guy. And yeah, so immediately. This film stars Ryan Gosling, George Clooney, and some other Oscar nominees, although I'm not using this as their film. But it's really interesting that I could have used this, just gotten 3 people out in one film. This is Ryan Gosling. We got Academy Award nominee Paul Giamatti here. And we've also got Jeffrey Wright. Look at that. We got 3 people who are nominated for the Oscars this year. This is like an Oscar palooza. Like if you're trying to do some sort of shenanigans celebration, this is the film to do it with. You got 3 acting nominees from this year in the same film. Find me that somewhere else. Anywhere. I don't think you'll find it. It's also got the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. I should say the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman. We've got Evan Rachel Wood and Marissa Tomei are part of the incredibly stacked cast that this film has. It's directed by George Clooney, and yeah, that's what you need to know. It's a little old, but this is the kind of thing that I want Ryan to one day win for. You know, just a nice dramatic role where he feels like he's tilting at windmills. He feels like he's in a group and he's with these titans of acting, and somehow he's just kicking everybody's ass. This is, this is just a showcase for Ryan Gosling, because despite how good Clooney, Giamatti, and Wright, and Hoffman, and Wood, and Tomei all are, it feels like every exchange they have with Gosling just comes out on top. It's a great showcase for Ryan Gosling, which is why I chose it. You're welcome. It's basically it's a political thriller, and honestly, the first time I saw this film, I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I wasn't like, oh my god, we need to throw Oscars at this thing. I was like, oh, that was interesting. It's weird how in 2023 things take on like a different light, and you're like, oh my god. Political movies, you're like, we were talking about this stuff back then? Weird. So, yeah, it's there are some parallels being drawn and some things that come up in campaigns, and there's something that they talk about. The film is from a Democratic perspective, I should say, that they're running a Democratic presidential campaign. But there's some stuff that comes up with, the argument of Ryan thinks he's above needing to do certain things, and he's like, that's the kind of dirty stuff the Republicans pull, and you can hear Paul Giamatti say, that's why we keep losing, they need to start doing that. I'm like, I've heard that more recently. It's amazing. We were saying that in the film not that long, but a long time ago, long before anything ever happened. This film is over 10 years old, so yeah, it's predates a lot. So its political motivations are not anything that you would find coming out of a 2023 or 2024 title right now, where it would take the temperature of this political landscape and try to propel it onto the screen. Just bizarre. I was like, this film feels like it was made this year. Why? Why does it feel that way? And there's like such a huge focus on women's rights and the right to choose here as part of the big scandal ends up being focused around Evan Rachel Wood's character and what to do with her. And that whole situation comes up, and then the candidates are talking about it and they're asked about it. And I'm like, man, God, this is like, did George Clooney see the future? And then he wrote this film and he was like, everybody will watch this film in 2023 and 2024. I predict. I'm making it for then. Yeah, it just didn't hit me back then. But now today it's like, if I viewed this as like a 2023, 2024 title, it feels like it's so on the mark. It's so on the nose. Stuff about using open primaries and voting for the weakest candidate on the other side that you think you can beat to try to propel them to the nomination so that you can beat them. It's just so many things that are so timely. And either our entire political system has been like this for years, or Clooney is Nostradamus. One of two things is happening here, because this is freak. This is freakishly, oddly timely, and it shouldn't be. Philip Seymour Hoffman's been dead for a while, guys. He's been gone for a while. We already celebrated a couple years ago his son making his big, acting, prominent debut in Licorice Pizza. That was like a couple of years back. So way before that, that he lost his father, Cooper Hoffman. Anyway, yeah. I like this film a lot more now. I don't know why. I saw this film once and I was like, that was fine. Probably in my mind I was like, that's a B plus. One of the things that still holds me back about it is that it feels what it feels like to me still. Even though I appreciate how shockingly, weirdly accurate this is for when I'm watching it, is I have to take a step back and say some of those reservations that I still had are still there. It still feels like you walk in, you're coming home. Follow me on this. Don't click out. Click subscribe instead. You walk home and you've got a Michelin star chef. I don't know, pick your favorite celebrity chef, and they're standing in your kitchen and they're like, check out these ingredients I just got from the farmer's market. I'm gonna cook you this amazing pot pie. And you're like, wow, I've got a top level chef with these fresh ingredients that look like they've just been picked from a garden, and they're gonna cook me this pie. And then they serve it to you and you're like, that just tastes like any pie ever that I've ever made in my life. How did this happen? The expectations when you have a lineup of this cast, from the director of Good Night and Good Luck. I believe this was written also by Clooney and Grant Heslov. Or they're produced. I can't remember. Anyway, it's got basically the same team that just knocked it out of the park with Good Night and Good Luck, and then they come up with Ides of March, and you're just like, is this? I don't think it is. It's not quite there. It feels like it comes a little short. It feels like it throws some political ideas out there, but it doesn't actually land them. One of the things that it does is it keeps George Clooney's character sort of at length, and it lets everybody sort of talk around them. And it comes up, it chooses the most predictable ending instead of choosing the least predictable ending. And that's the thing too, is that it goes where you think, it goes where the film tells you it's going, and it doesn't really change or shock you, or nothing really feels unexpected in this film. It just kind of feels like, yep, okay, that's where we're, yep, and we're going here now. I mean, I kind of have forgotten a lot of Ides of March. I remembered like the meat and potatoes of it all, but I totally forgot Jeffrey Wright was in this. I didn't look it up before. Totally forgot Paul Giamatti was in this. They play sort of supporting characters that come in and out. And basically my takeaway was, okay, I know Gosling, Clooney, and Evan Rachel Wood are in this. I can't remember who else, but we'll find out. Yeah, turned out everybody else was in it. And it does feel like it's a very Ryan Gosling centric film, and sort of like, what's he going to do? How is he a political mastermind? And while I think Clooney makes really interesting movies, I feel like this is the kind of thing that Aaron Sorkin actually hits a home run on. It's like George Clooney gets on base with this. He doesn't even just get on first base. He hit that ball enough. His runner got to second, maybe third base. But he didn't bring it home. It isn't a home run. It certainly isn't a grand slam. You know, this is just, it's like, okay, well, it's a hit. It's a solid work. It's not going to mar Clooney's reputation. All of the acting here is stellar. But when you pick this cast, how is it not going to be? You pretty much have to have, you know, I mean, you have to bring in the most... Uwe Boll has to come in to fuck this up. I mean, like, you really have to reach deep to take these actors, most of whom are either Oscar winners or Oscar nominees. Just poor little Evan Rachel Wood, still waiting. She's like, I just want to be the only cast member in this film that's not an Oscar nominee. Can I just please have one, please? Yeah, the main cast is stacked. There's some like people that drift through in the background, but that aren't named actors. But the ones that they would put on the poster, they're all either Oscar nominees or winners. You know, Clooney. We got Clooney's directed Good Night and Good Luck. That's an Oscar anyway. So it feels like it should be amazing, but it feels like it's somehow yet still a step down. And I think part of the problem is that it's a little bit predictable. It doesn't quite, it opens up a lot of ideas, and it wants, like, it's ready to throw punches. It's a big, strong boxer in the ring that you're like, oh my God, I don't want to face that guy. But he never throws a punch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it never has anything, it never goes deep into these ideas, and it never has the same sort of dramatic heft to it that Sorkin's West Wing had for all those years, where he did actually ask a tough question and did have the follow through. This one just kind of sets up some ideas. It wants you, it throws out some sort of like clickbaity ideas on what it is to be a Democrat, you know, so that way you can be like, oh, well, he's definitely a Democrat because no Republican would ever have those ideas. But it doesn't ever really debate them, because he never really debates the other side. He just debates the other guy running against him. And so nothing ever is opened up or exposed. Clooney is kept at arm's length so that way, I guess there's an air of mystery about like whether or not this thing happened or didn't happen. And you never really get to know him as a character. He's more just like charming George Clooney. How could charming George Clooney ever do this to you? You know? I can't, you know, how could we ever believe that? And it just doesn't really quite land. But it's very competently directed. It's very competently written. It's it's expertly acted. It feels like everything is there, but at the end of the day, you're just like, there's something that's keeping this from being great. And I still feel that, even though it's hauntingly, weirdly timely. I'm going back to where I said it was before. I said, you know, I thought it was BB plus range, and that's kind of where I am. The audio description by Miles Neff is really good. A lot of attention and focus on facial expressions. There are scenes where you get to even know kind of things about the weather. There's a scene where they talk about a car being parked in sort of like slushed snow, which gives you know exactly what time of year you are. You know that it's been snowing. I mean, it just by mentioning it, it's cold outside. You know, It's there's so many things that are answered just by mentioning that there's slush snow that a car is parked in. It's like it blanket answers a whole lot of other questions, um, in just a simplified transaction. So um, yeah, there are some good choices made here, um, but at the end of the day, while I love Miles and I think his narration here is good, this is a good but not great film, and I stand by that. I feel like it just falls a little bit short. It's still worth watching. I had a blast watching this because I'd only ever seen it once, and coming back up on it again and watching it through a new lens. First of all, first time watching it as blind, and second, first time in this new political landscape we're in. And now a whole bunch of people who weren't Oscar nominees when this film was first made are now Oscar nominees, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's passed. So it's like it's a completely different context. Um, and It worked for me on a different level, but it still didn't work for me on the same level it didn't work for me before, which is odd, but interesting. So I'm gonna give the Ides of March a B plus. Yeah, I think it has excellent acting in it, and that's what carries it. But the rest of it is just sort of like there could be more here. But I can't fault a single one of these performances. Not one of them. They're all fantastic. Every single actor who comes into this film is superb. This is the kind of film that if I was whenever it comes up for my rewriting the Oscars, I will look at the performances and not necessarily for picture or really even director or screenplay. But these actors are doing a lot with the script, and especially Gosling, who is basically centered around a ton of fantastic actors. It's a great performance from him, and I'm glad I picked this for him. So if you think he's silly as Ken, check out one of his slightly lesser known dramatic works like The Ides of March, now available on Max with audio description. And also don't forget to subscribe here so I can continue to talk about films with audio description. That's it for me today. I will watch another one of the Oscar nominees tomorrow and let you know what I think. And until then, you can go to my website, macmovieguy.com. You can follow me on X, Threads, or Instagram, MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.isb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the adnut.org. That's the adna.org. There's a whole bunch of things on there. There's the Adnut Presents, like a podcast series. You can search on there for your favorite film or television series and see who hosted it, and a bunch of different things. Anyway, check it out. Also, shout out to the Darkroom podcast and Alex and Lee, who have done a lot of work with me, and make sure you listen to the Darkroom podcast. So, that's it. I will review something else and see you guys on the other side.